This video is brought to you by Knowledge at the Australian School of Business. For more information, please visit knowledge.asb.unsw.edu.au.
The ripple effect of a leader's optimism and direction on a company is enormous. The CEO, that's the Chief Executive Officer, or quite simply, the head of a company, can inspire workers to incredible feats. And yet, quite often employees ask, well, what actually is a CEO's role? Steve Kaufman is Senior Lecturer at Harvard Business School and also the PricewaterhouseCoopers Research Fellow at the Australian School of Business. So, Steve, hello and welcome.
Thank you.
Firstly, can you tell me what is the role of a CEO?
That's an interesting question. In my mind, a CEO has 5 principal responsibilities. The first is responsibility of leadership, and for me that means energizing and motivating the entire workforce, getting them excited about coming to work for the institution and the goals of that institution. Second, it's leading the strategy development of the organization, making sure that where the company is going makes sense and delivers value to its shareholders, whether it's a privately owned company or a publicly owned company. After putting the right strategy in place, the third role of a CEO is to put the right people into the right slots to execute that strategy. A strategy written down is useless unless there are the right people in place to make that strategy happen. The fourth element is the operational detail of the company, just making sure that the doors are open in the morning, the lights are on, product is being manufactured, people are being hired, product is being shipped, or services are being provided to their customers. I actually think that if you get number 2 and 3 right, or numbers 1, 2, and 3 right, an energized workforce with the right strategy and the right people in place, that the operational details require less intensity than one might expect of a CEO. The fifth element is the relationships with the various stakeholders, shareholders, customers, suppliers, the general community. So for me, that would be the 5 key focuses of a CEO.
And yet many CEOs are in their position for 5, 10, sometimes even 20 years. How do they keep on inspiring and delivering high-quality leadership throughout that time?
That's very much the individual's makeup. But I would say the answer to the question is when they stop feeling the excitement of doing that, it's time to step down, whether it's 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. If they don't jump out of bed in the morning, anxious to get to their office, and excited about those 5 responsibilities, then it's time to look for something else that does fire their passions and get them going in the morning.
And of course, when top executives stumble, quite often they do seem to bring down their company with them. Is there a certain point you can say when companies should just look at replacing the man at the top, the chief executive, and then what do? How do they find the next one?
Well, that's 3 questions. Let me say that my experience, both as a CEO and now as an observer, is that the way a CEO can defend against those terrible bring the company down mistakes is first to make sure they look in the mirror and see a human being every morning, not some godlike creature. Secondly, it's to have at least 3 or 4, and hopefully more, individuals who work for them, with them, who are prepared to look them in the eye and tell them when they're wrong, when they're wandering off the right path, when they've made a mistake, who can come into their office and say, Steve, you may not want to hear this, but, and then to lay it out. That is to disagree and to have the courage of their convictions and the relationship to be able to do that without risk to themselves or without feeling risk to themselves. And the way a CEO encourages that is that when somebody does bring them bad news, to be careful that they don't shoot the messenger, that they actually thank the messenger for the bad news and then deal with it. It may mean gritting their teeth because they may not like to hear the bad news, but they really must, every time someone says that to them, they must say, thank you. I know it was difficult for you to come in here and tell me this, but it's important for the company, It's important for me that I do hear it, so thank you very much. The last insurance is to have a process in place with their board of directors whereby the board of directors can give them credible, detailed feedback on their performance. Not the, gee, Steve, good job, you made the numbers, here's your bonus, but getting the information firsthand, which means the directors have to be able to have contact personally with executives a level and 2 level below the CEO in order to get information which they can then assemble and feed back to the CEO in a credible fashion so the CEO sees where his or her problems may be. And the goal of this process is not to give a report card. The goal of the process is not to justify the pay. The goal of the process is to help a good CEO become a better CEO, to help a great CEO become a world-class standout CEO. And that means feedback from their boss, the board, from their peers and their subordinates.
And yet, picking up on what you say, it almost sounds as if quite a lot of boards have been a bit perfunctory, actually, in their feedback to their CEOs.
I think that's correct. I think in the past, the performance feedback to a CEO has been focused on justification of the pay package. And I don't believe that's the most effective and productive place for the performance program to focus. I think the performance feedback program should focus, as it does for a middle-level executive, on the performance development, with the compensation being a byproduct of that. But that, of course, means that the reviewer, the directors, need to get information that goes beyond just what were the numbers. Has to understand the leadership style and the leadership impact of that CEO on his or her people. When it's time to replace the CEO, him or her, that's a difficult thing, and yes, the board has to make that decision. But if we've had a good dialogue all along the way, that will be less necessary. Most CEOs get replaced after the damage has been done, rather than ahead of time. The goal should be to prevent the damage, not to then react to it. In the equestrian world, it is said that a good horseman is not someone who can keep themselves in the saddle when the horse rears up. A good horseman is someone who can prevent the horse from rearing up. So I would say the same thing is true. A good management is preventing the problem, not reacting to it quickly after it happens.
And yet, when you end up with the situation that we have actually seen in quite a few companies recently, where quite a lot of people in the company think something is wrong, they need to address it, but it's rather like the emperor's new clothes.
That's correct.
Nobody wants to stick up their hand and say, Mr. CEO, I think you've got it wrong, we need to do something. How do you avoid that situation?
A truly great CEO understands that's a risk and reaches out to encourage people to come to them and tell them, if you're not wearing clothes, you at least forgot your shirt this morning. But the other element of it is the board's responsibility. The board has to know whether there is an open environment. And the only way the board can do that is if they are in contact with individuals throughout the organization and can sense the culture. Is the CEO, or are not just the CEO, but the entire top leadership group, are they open to disagreement? Are they open to truly constructive debate where people don't just fall in line because the boss said it? And the board needs to find ways to learn that. And if they conclude that the CEO, whether it's conscious or unconscious, is not as open to disagreement as he or she should be, then the board has to put that on the docket for the performance review and say, look, Steve, look, Sally, look, Sue, we get the sense that whether you realize it or not, your people are really not comfortable bringing you bad news. They're not comfortable raising their hand, and there's a risk, and we really encourage you to find ways to open up those channels.
And yet normally, of course, we'd be asking CEOs to actually encourage entrepreneurship in their organisation. We're not talking about CEOs that may have issues, CEOs that are great CEOs that are leading on the company, and yet for many people on the shop floor, for example, they can seem a little bit remote. How do they encourage that entrepreneurship throughout the organisation?
They have to live what they talk. In America, people say, maybe they say here in Australia as well, you need to walk the talk. It's not good enough to have a video or an email or a notice on the bulletin board or even a little annual prize each year. The CEO, by the questions they ask, the attention they pay to new product development, to new service development, to innovation, will encourage, or their lack of that personal involvement will effectively discourage. So the specific question, what should a CEO do? What would I recommend a CEO do? Is they devote a certain amount of their time, disproportionate to the amount of sales or profit that are coming in. They direct their time to those issues. That means getting out of their 40th floor office and down on the shop floor or the engineering lab floor, or goodness to gracious, nose to nose with customers. Not the customer CEO, but the customer's middle level people, and understanding what do they need, understanding what's going on in our R&D lab, what's going on in the innovation area on the floor, poking their nose around, not on a guided tour, not having the manager of that plant walking them through, nodding and shaking hands, but literally just stopping and gee, I'd like to talk to whoever's done this. Visibility, where the CEO spends her time, the rest of the organization will focus. It also means that in bad times, the innovation activity, the innovation investments have to be maintained. Nothing turns an organization off more quickly than a faucet on and off, with the off coming as soon as there's a little blip. If you believe in innovation, you have to persevere. That means when it comes time for cutbacks, if there has to be, say, 5% layoffs on average, it may be that the innovation areas get no layoff and some other area gets 8% layoff, so that the average is 5. But to take 5% out of everything, including the innovation, is going to kill it. So consistency, perseverance is very important. And as I say, specific, obvious, visible attention by the CEO will encourage more people to believe it's for real.
It seems you're saying communication as well is important to channel down just why they may make the decision to, say, for example, keep the R&D department but make major layoffs in a factory.
Yes, not only in bad times, but in good times, it's important to explain why we're investing money in certain areas. One of my favorite ways is to pull the innovation activities, once there's a little spark of a product or a service, to pull it out of the regular organization and set it up as a separate organization alongside, where it can grow on its own and where it can have slightly different culture and slightly different rules and procedures. The day-to-day operating rules may act as a detriment to the innovation that is necessary. And therefore, once a new product is being launched, the regular rules may have to be suspended. Now, that can be difficult because the rest of the organization may feel jealous. There's, like anyone that has 2 children understands, sibling rivalry. You took Billy to the championship game, I only got to go to the regular season game, that sort of thing. The fact is, when the innovation project is new, it's fragile. It needs protection. It needs a little special support. And so I like to, as I say, take them out and give them a little extra help, even though others may say teacher's pet. Well, yes, it is teacher's pet, because this teacher's pet is going to pay your pension when your product is in the end of its life cycle, and you want teacher's pet to grow up big and strong.
Advice that I'm sure many CEOs would be wise to listen to. Steve Kaufman from the Australian School of Business, thank you very much.
Thanks.
For more business news and analysis from Knowledge at the Australian School of Business, please visit knowledge.asb.unsw.edu.au.